this live talk. Apologies, I have come down with a horrible cold, and as you can tell, I'm losing my voice a bit. So I thought I'd pre-record kind of the first half of this talk, and then I'll be live in the chat answering questions, and then the last 10 minutes I'll open it up to a Q&A. I'll have my windows open and can answer any questions live. So I appreciate you sticking with me as I deal with this cough and fun vocal fry. All right, so let's talk about how to make your post-event follow-up emails not suck for you or your customers. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit beyond email, because I think a lot of us are being tasked with a lot of additional priorities, especially with AI out in the world. You know, we're asked to do a lot of things. And so sometimes AI makes it easier, sometimes it doesn't. So let's talk about it. Well, before we talk about it, let's talk about me. So kind of, I always like to know kind of who am I talking to, or who am I listening to? So put a better way of like, why should we listen to you, Leah? Well, I think that's a good question. So here are my credentials. One, I'm old and I really don't have time for that. And like, you know, when I was in my 20s, I probably had a little bit more time for it. 20 years now in this business, I don't have time for it. So, yeah, anything that I can automate, anything that, you know, I love the era of AI that we're in. I'm a bit of an AI fangirl. We can talk about it in the chat. But it's because of this. And the other part of that motivation is we got a new puppy. And look at, this is Pork Chop. Everyone say hi to Pork Chop. He's adorable. And look at this man. This man has not paid a single bill since he's moved into my house. So I got to make sure that I keep my great job, I do good work, and still have time to hang out with him, you know, maybe take a long lunch, play with him, go for a walk. So these are my credentials. This is my motivation. So here's the challenge. We have traditional kind of post-event scramble. Yes, emails are part of that, but it really, especially if you're kind of running in a demand gen or lifecycle function, you're probably doing a decent amount. So you've got someone downloading the recording that's going to go over to your YouTube team to upload it. You've got its transcripts downloaded, saved somewhere. Questions during the Q&A that you promised, hey, we'll get you a response after. You've got to go through, you've got to manually review everything. So you send the transcript over to your content team, along with the video. They watch it, they write a little blog recap, or maybe you're the one writing it. Social team is going to draft some posts, and then you're going to go through and scan that chat for any sales ready leads, because we're good demand gen lifecycle people and we want to support our sales teams. What ends up happening is you've got missed opportunities. If you've got a webinar with, you know, 500 plus attendees, like, your chat's on fire. You're going to lose track of people who might be raising their hands, because not everybody likes to throw their question in the cute little Q&A tab. This isn't commentary on anybody listening. Like, you can throw it in the chat or the Q&A tab. I don't judge. But you're probably doing that thing where you're answering all the questions of, is this being recorded? Yes, this is my special webinar hat. And you know, you miss the people that may have some actual questions or might be even ready for sales. And so then if you're anything like our org, you know, we're putting on 1 to 2 webinars a week. So that's 4 to 8 webinars a month. And so the moment we get done with one, we like take a deep breath and then we say, oh, okay, on to the next one, because we've got one later down the line. We're answering speakers, all those things. Right. So what ends up happening is we end up sitting on a mountain of content. Yeah, sure, we may like upload it to YouTube, we may do a blog post, but really what ends up happening is we send out an email saying, hey, here's a link to the recording, here's maybe a recap and some resources, and that's about it. We can do better as a whole. And also shout out to AI. Absolutely love that this person is maybe sitting on not only content, but just another person in general. And probably because, you know, when you're sitting on this content, your team, you know, if you're the one organizing it, you end up looking like this. You can see where everything needs to go. You've got your video team, content, social, your demand gen team. but everyone's sort of waiting on everyone else to either finish their content. If we send over, if you want to do the blog recap along with the webinar recording, the blog team might not get to that blog post in the next couple of days. And so suddenly you've got a week between sending out, the recording email, or worse, you might say, do I send out 2 emails? Because that's madness. Nobody wants 2 emails after an event, but they do want a quality email. So let's talk about kind of a solution for this. It's to automate. Yeah, shocker. The person that works at Zapier is excited about automating something. Yes. But again, let's recap. It's because ain't nobody got time for that. This is the vibe. This is what we're bringing into 2026. We can't be doing everything for everything if it's going to take up all of our new puppy time. So here's what I do. I take my transcript, I upload it to our folder. AI does its thing. We're going to show you what that thing is in a second, don't worry. And then the team receives the assets. Everybody's notified for ready to use materials. I would say probably ready to edit materials. While I'm a huge fan of AI, I think that the copy, everything can get you about 80 to 90% of the way there most of the time. And then it's up to us to go in and, add in that extra 10%, that extra, little sparkle that we bring that, AI just can't do right now. So let's talk about how we build those. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through a simple workflow. Now, everything that I built here today, I'll be able to give everybody access to. And if you want to steal any of the prompts, I think what's cool about this is you can build this in a couple of different ways. So one, yes, I've got a fairly clean Zapier. I also have a kind of agent view that we'll be going through, and I can talk about this is something that you can build, yes, within Zapier, or if you have another product that has an agent, or if you have, if you're working with OpenAI and doing a GPT or Claude, all of this can be translated depending on kind of what your tech stack is. I'm showing you this because these are actual workflows that I use day to day in my job. So here is our amazing workflow. It's got 6 little steps here, but she is pretty big. So let me kind of zoom in here for everyone. All right, so the trigger is pretty simple. For this, I've duplicated these so that way I'm not bugging our team with new webinars as I go in and test it. And the setup's simple. I say is a new document in this folder. I go in, it's my Google Drive. For our live one, we do have it in a shared drive so that way everybody has access. Always give people access to things. Nobody wants to open a doc and find out that you got to request access. That's my soapbox for the day. And so I've got a little folder aptly named Webinar Transcripts. The next step here is I've got just a filter in case something goes into that doc that doesn't have webinar transcript in there. I just want to make sure that we are filtering it appropriately. For this next part, I have a little Zapier AI step here, and I'll kind of zoom out a little bit here so you can see I've got using Anthropic. I'm just doing 4.5 Opus. And then I'm having it grab the content from this first step here. And so our webinar provider, they end up giving us the transcripts that end up looking like this. And yes, this is a real transcript that we have. I used to throw it in ChatGPT and be like, can you make this pretty for me? With this workflow, I don't have to do any of that. I just, again, I don't have time for it. I don't bother with it. So I've worked with my amazing social team. Shout out to Ryan. And he has created this prompt. It's in Zapier's kind of style we've got different versions of these for like HR leaders, RevOps leaders, IT peeps, depending on the webinar content. And so for this one, it was a HR webinar, so I'm just going to focus on this prompt. But what the workflow actually looks like is it would be split out. And so we've got, webinars by kind of like the lines of business for our HR, RevOps, marketing, those type of things. So, if you're doing this for you, you may want to build it out by, different industries that you're going after. just random call out there. So this one, we've got a call out of how we want it to be, the tone and voice. In this universe, this is what we want. We want it to be human-centric, people first. These are basically the tone, the voice, the DNA, everything that we have here. And then it's going to give me some output fields. And so we're going to see our audience, the main benefit, strong proof, desired action, the kind of hook style, if you will. And then it's going to give me post copy options and then an article title. Next, I wanted to take all of those great pieces of content and create a Google Doc for me. And so you go through here. I've got like a possible loop detection in here. That's why I've got my lovely filter step in here, so we'll never have a loop. And then what it's going to do is it's going to call an agent. And so let me grab that agent real quick. So what I love about agents in general, and so this is where we get to a really autonomous kind of workflow for me. And so I have it triggered off of the Zap. So from that step, and I'll kind of zoom in on this as well. And I've got just some simple instructions. And so I say, hey, this is triggered, find that webinar transcript. And I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to analyze the content to identify key topics, notable insights, takeaways, practical tips, actionable stuff. Because what this is going to end up doing is it's going to write my blog. And so then I want to go in, I want it to structure the content from the post, and I want to have an engaging title, brief introduction, main body, bullets, all those great things that make a great blog post. So the next step here is applying that Zapier writing style. And so I think what I like about working with kind of agents and AI in this kind of era that we have is that most of our writing teams have really great style guides. And so as part of this build, I'm actually able to come in and, as you can see down here, add in some knowledge sources. And so I've got our Zapier blog style guide where it calls out different things like we don't use the Oxford comma, much to my chagrin. Other things like we enjoy a sentence case instead of title case, those type of things. Things that I know are going to immediately be flagged and kind of annoy my content team. I want to make sure that if I'm giving them a draft, it's a pretty solid draft. And then we've got our blog voice. And so I'm able to kind of upload these documents. And these are kind of multi-page documents that are pretty standard for us. And so then once it goes through, it's going to call that out. And then I wanted to format it in a blog post, proper headings, subheadings, visual breaks. And I also wanted to create a post-event recap email for me. I want to keep it to the highlights, maybe a few speaker call outs. Basically, the goal is to get them to watch the recording or check out the blog post. I wanted to go in, create a doc for me. And then I wanted to send me a Slack message saying, hey, this thing is ready. Here are kind of the top line insights. The reason I have it do that is because I always like to do recaps for our webinars internally and say, I'll add in some additional information like this is how many people registered, this is how many people we attended. Here were kind of the top highlights or top questions asked. So that's kind of what this is what this step does. So our last step here is going to be a call out. I have this just going to me right now saying, hey, Leah, our social recap is ready for you. Take a look. Normally this would go to Ryan, but again, I don't want to bug my team. So yeah, let's take a look at what this looks like live when it runs. All right, so let's get this going. I'll run this flow. And so what's fun about this is that you can kind of see how this is being built. So we've got the document has been created, it's running through, it's going to be doing this analyzer step, it's going to go in and create a document and run the agent, and then I'll get a couple of messages in Slack that I'll be able to show everybody. So because I'm recording this, I'm going to hit pause on this as it runs, and then I'll show you kind of the outputs. Well, I guess in real time she's running, so this is kind of fun. And so we've already gone through, created the document, the outputs, and now it's going to be running the agent and then sending me the Slack messages. So let's take a look at what those look like. Alrighty, so here we go. We've got our Google Doc here. Sorry that it's zoomed in. Also, dangerous game looking at my Slack. But yeah, so we'll click in here, and here's our draft that we have. So we know, I'm in here multiple times. Here are the 3 drafts. So we have draft A, draft B, draft C that our team can go in, personalize it they want, send over to our leadership for approval. And so that way we're using AI to the best of its abilities, but at the same time keeping that human in the loop. We want to make sure that we are always going through, proofreading things, getting rid of, those fun little M-dashes or things that just don't quite sound right. Like I said, I think that a lot of this can get us to 80 to 90% of the way there, but we're still not at the point where it's 100%. Alrighty, and then we've got our blog recap post. So this is again what this would look like, key topics, highlights, and then a link to the blog post. And so I always like to go in here and, there are ways that I can remove these spacing, but I do that intentionally. I always make sure that when I see the spacing, it means, hey, a human hasn't looked at this yet. So it's a good way for us to go in, make sure, hey, did we follow the rules and tone of voice that we want? Did it miss a certain point that we want to maybe highlight? But again, like I said, this is something that gets you to 80% of the way there. So I've already got social posts. I've got my blog posts. Now let's talk about some of those follow-up emails that we're going to be sending out. All right, so let's talk about the questions and some of the personalized follow-up emails that we'll do. So a lot of times we get documents that look like this. So this is all fake data, fake emails, but real type questions that we usually get. And usually, if it's a good webinar, we'll have about 50 or so questions. We'll also have a ton of people in the chat. And so what I'll do is I'll take this document and I'll run it through my little fun agent that we have here. So again, we've got the new file and folder. We will go through and say, hey, when a new worksheet is created with webinar questions, we want it to go through and pull all the rows. So that way it's capturing all 50 questions. Then we want it to go through and we want it to analyze the questions. And we also want to, skip over any of the things of, is this webinar being recorded? Spoiler alert, it's always being recorded. And then I want it to create a summary of the top 3 to 5 prominent themes, questions, relevance, all those things, because it's going to give me ideas for future webinars. It's now taking things that I'm looking at not just for outreach, but future webinar content planning. I want it to format it into clear themes, organized messaging, brief description of each theme, all those great things. I want it to create a Google Doc for me. And then I want it to analyze the questions and flag any leads that might be ready to talk to sales based on their question. I want these, and then I've got a couple of, examples of hey, here's the audience context, the goals to get them on a call. And I want it to, do all those things. Sound human, conversational, not corporate. No buzzwords, no fillers, those type of things. And then I want it to send me a Slack message. And so again, I've just got my steps here and I can show you what that ends up looking like. This came up with, so we ran that flow. It had 50 webinar questions and it gave me a quick little summary. They've identified 5 themes. They've pulled out 5 qualified sales leads, 3 enterprise opportunities and 2 mid-market, which is great. A nice little breakdown of what that 5 ends up being. I think this is really great, especially if you're in an org that is, doing a PLG motion to enterprise, having those distinctions are always great. And so I got a couple of links here. And then what I really love is it usually gives me a breakdown of the top themes if I don't actually want to go through and read the docs. And then it gives me some immediate actions. So yeah, let's run through some of these links now. So again, here's our analysis. I like to keep the formatting the way it is because again, it's my little trigger. Has a human looked at this? And I like that, it gives me like, hey, there were 18 questions. It pulls out key examples, and like who asked it. Um, yeah. And so then going down here, we've got the sales opportunities that it'll call out and then recommendations for next steps. I think overall, like I said, this is something that is really easy, gives me those themes kind of, and what we do is we look at these and say, hey, like, do these have legs? Should we turn this into an event or a different type of content? For the sales emails, you can see kind of what came through here. And so we have our made up person, Alex, here. He was asking about managing 200 sales reps. Alex is busy, y'all. And so yeah, I've got that goal, and then I've got just like a quick little email. I want this to be fairly casual. I'll come in here, I might make a couple of edits here and there, but for the most part, these are pretty solid emails that I can send over to the reps and say, hey, here are the kind of the top 5 leads that we think. I like that they reference, hey, I saw you asked a question about this. We can definitely help. Here's some social proof that we have. This is all stuff that you can build into either an agent or a GPT, like have those examples of social proof or customer stories. You can add those in as knowledge sources in your GPTs. I think it's really powerful to do that. So again, this is how we make not just emails not suck for our customers and follow up, but also how we just create a really streamlined process. And so we've taken something that, if you can kind of remember, I'll go back here, we had 4 main teams that were managing this. And now we're down to essentially my team. We will run through all this and we'll send it over to the social team. But what used to take them maybe an hour or 2 hours of work, take about 10 minutes of editing at the end of the day. Little final tweaks. Again, it's getting us to that point where we can be in that 80 to 90%, and then us just come in and add that sparkle, add that little jazz it up, if you will. And so this is, like I said, I hope this is a kind of inspiring case. And we'll kind of stop the recording now, and I'll jump in live to chat about it with everybody. Excited for your questions. Hopefully there are questions, or it's going to be a sad couple of minutes, but looking forward to it. Alrighty, as promised, not quite full Muppet volume. Also, if everybody had their volume really high and I just started yelling at you, my apologies. But let's get into it. I want to, hey, I wish I had Pork Chop with me. He would have made a great addition. But let me go ahead and share my screen here too. Really appreciate the call outs, the questions that we have. So I shared the slide deck. I'll share it again before we end, but I've got all the things we have. I want to call out that while, yes, I'm using a specific tool, I think if you have any sort of automation tools or what your tech stack is, a lot of the things that I've built today too, if you're just, hey, we're a ChatGPT, we're like you can build those in Claude, like a little Claude bot or a GPT bot. So all of the prompts and everything are going to be available to you. And then I added in like a couple of bonus stuff. So while we talked a lot about post-event, I added in some like webinar kickoff type stuff. But let's jump into some questions here. Alrighty. So I got one for here. From basically asking, could Zapier create a similar spreadsheet? So for the Q&A, I mean, it could maybe pull together some questions like from your transcript, but most of the time I'm going through like the event today, I would pull like these questions and everything in the chat and have my analyzer run through that. So you could use Zapier for that, but I wouldn't probably recommend it. Alrighty, let me just move my screen here. Um, do you disclaim that the blog content was produced by AI? And do you share the final edit piece back with the bot to produce better content? Ooh, that's a really good question. So we will call it out a little bit. I mean, I think everybody right now is using AI in some shape or form in their writing. So For this, I mean, we usually just put the author. So when I send it over to the content team, they'll go through and they'll actually proofread everything. Again, as much as I'm an AI fangirly, uh, we're just not there. Like, I can't send that type of content straight to our website, and I don't recommend anybody doing that right now. But I do think so. What's interesting about kind of pulling it back is we will go through and update our prompts. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to here with editing the final piece is I'll go through and like it's kind of like, when we would build out nurture programs and it's like don't set it and forget it. Like don't prompt and forget it as well. Like you should always be going back and updating your prompt, especially as like new AI models get launched. You know, I feel like they're launching them every other day now. It's kind of like when, Outlook or Gmail likes to update things. So always go back. And I'm gonna steal that idea and go back and make basically have it like look at the differences in the edits I made and see if I can increase my or better my prompt. Alrighty. Is there a recommendation for how companies can speak to post sweepstake events versus Andrea, I may need you to maybe explain that question a little bit more in the chat. Is there companies can speak to post sweepstake events? Yeah, I might need a little extra in there. Apologies for that one. Alrighty. We've got another one here from Conception. How long did it take you to create the automation workflow to the point where you're pretty? So I have been working on this workflow, and I think I like to not work in a like a vacuum by any means. So I'll work with my content team. As I mentioned, I shouted out Ryan. I'll let him know that I mentioned him several times during this talk. And so I go to the experts. Like, I'm going to be really honest with y'all. I'm not the best writer. As I think maybe someone mentioned the word impact in being a Philistine, and now I'm worried about it, that I'm not using a word correctly. So that's kind of like my general skill set level. So what I like to do is build out like the ideal flow. I'm a big fan of even before I like go in to build any sort of automations, map it out. I'll do like a fig jam, I'll lucid chart, those type of things and say, hey, here's where I want my triggers to be, just like we would any good kind of nurture program. You're going to build it the same way. And then from like that concept to there, about a week to get this kind of up and running to where I wanted it to be. And then probably a week after that of just fine tuning things with our content team. And so I think the fun thing about these type of presentations and you get access to this is that you get to start from, step 5 instead of step 0. So go have fun with it. If you improve upon it and you make better content, like let me know because I absolutely love that. So here's another question. This is the first time learning about Zapier. Cool, love that. Does this level of automation make sense for coaching businesses, specifically with small teams? Um, so I think I'm gonna step away from Zapier as a whole, and more so just talk about automations as well. I think we're going into the era where these need to be things that we know how to do. I'm gonna get on a bit of a soapbox on this question. So a lot of things that we are looking to do and expected to do, and that's kind of during this talk I went through and looked at like the whole webinar process because I don't think anybody on this call is just doing a single thing like I just created an email for this event. Like we don't have those conversations now. It's now we're expected to do everything. So I think investing in automation tools, using AI, open AI, to the point where, MCP is becoming a thing. And, even with my own internal team, kind of my general prediction, I know we've got to talk tomorrow about AI, but I think MCP, and building and using tools like Cursor and Claude Code are going to be the new kind of PDF, the millennial joke of like, oh, your boss doesn't know how to make a PDF, but is making more like that's going to be the new thing for us in our generation is we're going to be expected to, while not being very technical people, a lot of times, we're going to have to start to learning to adapt those, especially if you are, yeah, looking for new jobs, all those fun things. I know we're coming up to time, but that's kind of my soapbox. So yes, I definitely think it's worth the investment. If it's Zapier, great, but I like maybe start with ChatGPT, OpenAI, Claude, build out a GPT to help you kind of build these, and you can use a lot of the templates in there. Alrighty. As I mentioned before, I've got this link that I'm going to share with everybody again. Please feel free to message me on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, happy to answer them. And yeah, excited to see what everybody builds from these. Thank you so much for joining me.